I just built myself a 6 metre long workbench with drawers and I'm absolutely stoked at how it turned out. So stick around because I'm going to show you how to do it. Before we crack into the workbench, let's take a look around. This is a 6x9 metre shed and at the moment it's just got things scattered all around it. You might be able to see some old projects in here as well as some new ones that I haven't quite finished yet. The shed does have a few things in it from the previous owner, like a workbench and all this shelving along the back wall. I won't be using too much of the shelving, but they didn't have too bad of a setup. There is power out here with a few lights that actually do a decent job at lighting it all up, as well as various power points scattered around the shed. Apart from some more random stuff left behind, that's about all there is to show. It doesn't look too bad, does it? But before I really start working in here, I want to set it up the way I like it. And we're going to start by setting it out on the computer. I'll be using Fusion 360 to lay out the plan for the workshop. I've got a basic design for all the tools with the lathe and the mill on their own bench, the toolboxes along the side wall, my original workbench over there, butting up next to the workbench that I'm going to be building today. It's 6 meters long and I designed it so I could just use materials from the hardware store. So let's crack into it. But first I need to remove this shelving along the back wall. It's a simple yet decent design with a few Tek screws holding on the sheet metal to some angle iron. We can work our way along and take all of this apart before I get the angle grinder out and cut the angle iron off. Off camera I got rid of the other set of shelves and set up the mill, lathe, toolboxes and put one of those shelves over on the end. Alright, I've got a whole bunch of wood here, so now we can start building the workbench. Alright, so here's how the legs are going to be set up. So we're going to have our big piece on the bottom here. And give it a 70mm. We're going to space that off there. Yeah. Another piece there. 70mm again. And then this piece on the end. Now it's going to flip it over and screw it all together. One down, 11 to go. With 11 more legs to do, I got straight into the next leg of the journey. I'm using 90x45mm pine for these legs, so when they screw together, they make a full 90x90 post. I know some of you may be thinking pine for a workbench isn't very good, but the main goal of this bench is to be a strong structural workbench at a fair price. The rest of the legs got assembled the exact same way and before long all 12 legs were done. I created a stop on the miter saw then cut off a bit on the ends so that they were all even. I now need to take 4 of them and cut some more off. These will be the corner pieces, and to cut them I'm using a flush cut saw and a block of wood to keep it square. Now this cut didn't exactly come out perfectly, but it doesn't really need to be. This is what the front of the workbench will look like, and I've got all the pieces lined up on the floor ready to be assembled. Each joint will have 2 screws holding it, but there won't be any glue just in case I need to take it apart in the future. As I'm making my way along this 6 metre length, I'm checking each leg is square before drilling and screwing it down. The middle support can be laid down next and it falls into place in a really satisfying way. The same steps of checking for square, drilling and driving can be applied to this beam. That's the front part all assembled, so I can stand it up and move it out the way while I work on the back part, which will pretty much be the exact same steps. After moving the back into place, I had to cut a section out so it could go past this middle shed beam. Next, I'll cut a few pieces down the side and drill in some pocket holes. These boards will be for the supports on the side. I took one of the front legs off so I can attach this support in. When that was all screwed in, I could then move the front in and connect it all up. Alright, so the main frame of the workbench is pretty much where it's going to be. So what I've got here is I've got a whole bunch of wood which is going to space this all out, give it strength and also space it out correctly. Then after we've done that, that should be fairly strong, but then I've also got to tackle and build a little thing around there. But first, let's crack on with these. For the top, I'll be using flooring chipboard. I didn't end up filming much of its assembly, but I basically just cut it down to size and cut out the back corners as well as a bit at the middle. I then screwed it down, and screwing it down definitely was not the most comfortable. Let's switch gears a little and start cracking on with the drawers. The main carcass that the drawers will be mounted to is some 12mm plywood. If you're going to make something similar at home, I would suggest not using 12mm. I'd suggest using something a little bit thicker as it will help you out in the long run. I cut all the pieces out and nailed them together with some 40mm nails. The box was done and test fitting it into the opening I made was a success. Moving on up into the drawers, I'm using some 12mm plywood that's ripped down to 50mm wide. These are how high some of the drawers will be. I find shallow drawers work better in most cases for hand tools, which will be mostly what I'm storing in these drawers. So with these pieces ripped and cut to size, I can start assembly. Each joint on the drawer gets glue and some nails to hold it together. Corner clamps are a real lifesaver when it comes to this kind of work. I then sanded a piece of 7mm plywood, and this will be for the bottoms of the drawers. They attach the exact same way, with glue and a bunch of nails. And with one drawer done, I can repeat it 9 more times. Here is a box of drawer slides. This kind, little roller kind. I'm usually used to working in the other sort of slidey kind, but these ones will be more than fine for what I'm after. They're so much more cheaper and they'll do just for the workshop. There's 25 here, but I'm not going to need 25, I'm only going to need 10. So let's start putting some drawer slides on. Attaching these drawer slides are pretty self-explanatory, just some screws into the hole, but you may notice that the drawer slides extend past the drawer, and that's because my drawers are 450mm deep and the slides are 500. It's really no big deal, it just makes the drawers come out a little bit further than what they would normally, and that's not a bad thing. I then attached the other part of the slides to the frame, and while one side turned out pretty good, the side that I'm working on now did not. You can see that I had to use some scrap plywood as a spacer because the board in the middle wasn't exactly square. But I still worked my way up and got all the drawers in, but I'll definitely look at remaking these in the future. Next up, I ripped and cut down some more 12mm plywood to use as the drawer faces. I then used a jig to drill the holes and attach the handles to the fronts, using 3mm spacers in between each side. Each of these drawer faces got some screws in from the back also, just to hold them in place. Once again, these didn't quite exactly turn out how I wanted them to, so it'll just be another step to redo later. Okay, so we've got all the drawers here installed. Now I'm not too happy with them because there is some gaps all around here, but they do work more than fine, so maybe we'll come back to that one a little bit later. So let's carry on with the workbench now. I found some 20x12mm pieces of Tassie oak hardwood at the store and decided to use that to cover up the yellow tongue edge. They are just nailed on with some 40mm nails, and I went back through and punched them in and put some putty over. I even added some putty to the seams too. The main assemble of the workbench is complete and she's looking pretty snazzy already, but it's now time for everyone's favourite part, sanding. I'll be using a random orbit sander to sand all of this as it's the only sander I have, but it still does a decent job. The yellow tongue is pretty smooth already, so I'll be starting my sanding at 120 grit before moving up to 240. But however, sanding is boring, so thanks to the magic of editing I can do a seamless transition into the next step, varnishing. This is an oil-based varnish and I'll be using this over a water-based one as I think it holds up just a little better. I'll also be trying out using a spray gun for the first time I've had absolutely no experience with, so this should be fun. As I went around I did the first coat and I slowly got the hang of it, although the first coat went on pretty thick, it still turned out fine. So I gave it a light sand at 240 before applying a second coat and at 400 grit before applying the third coat, and that turned out really great. I can then go around and attach the drawer handles back on and the bench is all done. There we go, that wasn't that hard, was it? No, it wasn't. Now I'm not too happy with the drawers down there, but we're going to take another look at them at a later date. But apart from that, that's all I've got for you right now, so check out the video up here as well as one over there. Also check the little subscribe button down there, it really does mean a lot. That's all I've got for you at the moment, so bye for now.